Good morning, everyone. We have I'm kind of afraid to talk philosophy in front of Dr. Greg. That's a totally different story. All right. Uh, so this is a version of the talk I did for a MITRE event for in Singapore. It was called the APAC Community Workshop in MITRE. So I kind of did the same for APAC region, more like the cyber adversaries and threat actors coming targeting APAC, right? Then I kind of redid the same version for different regions. One for the Middle East, one for India, one for the US. The funny thing with the name of the APAC, you know, what does it say? APAC Council, right? APAC Union, right? So these folks are supposed to be allies. They're supposed to be like sharing intelligence on both front, cyber front and real national intelligence front, right? At the same time, these people are also fighting to each other. That's a very funny thing. These guys are recording, so similar to him, this is more like a censored version. So maybe we can catch outside the talk. Yeah. Okay. So about myself, I'm sorry. Okay. My name is full name is Abhijith Babirajan Redga. I call myself ABX. I used to work with different companies in the past, including Nissan Motor Corporation, and those fellows, they kind of, we cannot complain. So then eventually I ended up using my own hacker handle as a name. That is easy for you to, which one you prefer, Abhijit or ABX? Abhijit, yeah. I like that. Okay, I also manage two organizations. I recently started a company called Breach Sim Range, more like a breach simulation range. Mostly consulting, offensive security consulting. I was a freelancer for the last 3-4 years. Then I decided, let's do something. Then that's the reason why I have that organization. And I also manage Advanced Village at DEF CON, a community initiative. We're also, the call for paper is open for DEF CON. If anyone is interested, you can submit your training, you submit your talks. You can even volunteer for us at DEF CON this year. All right. And also one more thing to point out. If you notice the logo, I like elephant because I'm coming from South India. We, hunt down elephants. We take baby elephants from their mothers from the forest, and we train them, and then we use them in temples. I mean, I like elephants. The philosophy here is like usually when we see elephants, the mammoths, right? People used to hunt with spears, right? Now, if you are considering a mammoth as an organization, then now the mammoth itself having the capability to offense. That's why it is, he's carrying the tusker is carrying the spear. So that's kind of the philosophy behind it. Okay, so adversary group's landscape in the region, this is kind of a tricky thing because here we are focusing on the US region and the allies. It's like state-sponsored threat actors are there, geopolitical and financial motivations, and critical infrastructure. I think these three are kind of very tricky area for the threat actors to target an organization, a country, or certain key individuals, right? So this is actually the landscape. So if you are looking at the state-sponsored APD group, there's been a big rise in that sector. We can see a hell lot of people are, kittens, pandas, these people are coming out of, different part of the world and targeted, financially motivated ransomware gangs. Also geopolitical, there is no reason, a country doesn't need a reason to attack the other one. Also the attacks on critical infrastructure that is on the, on the verge here. Okay, a few cute, innocent looking images here. Could you identify? Could you name them? Okay, these are some threat tactic groups, right? I put some, AI generated images in there, just to make things look more fancy. So what do you think about the first one? Very innocent looking panda, right? This one? That's a bear, basically, yeah. Then we got a spider, then we got a sandworm. That image is not fully there. So what about this? Anyone like kittens? Cats? Okay. So again, we cannot leave pandas behind because they're everywhere. A wizard spider is there. We can also see a leopard. Okay, I'll go into detail in these things because here I have selected a few of these tractates only because we did some research on them. We emulated them, in a few organizations, including mine, my previous organizations. So that's the reason we picked some of them specifically. Look at this, wicked panda. Yeah, it's a very, very infamous one. The thing with pandas, they are kind of clones, right? If you are looking at 5 different tactic groups coming out of my friendly neighborhood country, right? I mean, they're our neighbors, right? So you can see that there are many similarities between all these tactics, right? They share their infrastructure, they share their TTPs. I believe they also share their, key people in between. That's one similarity between all the panda groups coming out of my friendly neighborhood country because so we can there is also a breach, a leak 2 years back, right? So it was like very very notable that these people are working like office hours, like morning 10 from evening 5 or morning 9 from evening 5. So that I mean the activities was on the rise during these hours only, right? That is very very notable thing from the leaks happened. So here they targets government organizations including US, India, Taiwan, the APAC regions. Also they have compromised many organizations using a wide variety of techniques. Again, they share TTPs. They are basically copycats. So this is something we have created to emulate APT41 using a tool called Vector. I mean, I'll come to that later. So again, Volt Typhoon and Salt Typhoon, again, kind of, twins. These are on the, on the emerging side nowadays. Salt Typhoon and Volt Typhoon. They kind of, breached into Singapore telecommunication back in 2024. And also, one thing they are infamous for is using living off the land binaries. So I'm pointing out because we have an end slide where you could test against these kind of threat actors. Then the Black Cat ransomware, like again, originated from supposed to be another neighboring country and a certain language speaking country. They see this is recorded. So so it's like so there is a saying. Enemy, I mean, enemy of your friend is your enemy, but here it is not the case. Enemy of your friend is his enemy. I am your friend. You got the point, right? Yeah. So I mean, so that's a very very confusing scenario. We used to say that okay, enemy of my friend is my enemy. I'm going to beat him up, right? But that is not the case nowadays. I mean, we are friends, but you guys are not friends. We are friends. I mean, it happens. We are enemies. It happens. Okay, again, is a Black Cat ransomware. There is also a very, very infamous one, Lockbit. I did not include Lockbit in this one because Lockbit has, I mean, these guys are like, nuts because they made innocent people to, make tattoos of their logo in their private parts and, ask them to post it on Twitter and other social media, send the screenshot to them so that they will release the, keys to decrypt the data. I mean, that is sick, right? That is like sadistic behavior. And they also got breached recently. Some people they claim, we haven't breached, we are still up and running. That's a different story altogether. So this in Black Cat, there is one notable technical part. They have used Rust-based ransomware. Still, I mean, if people are doing hands-on red teaming here, if you are like porting a certain tool to Rust language, chances are very high that that is undetectable, right? I mean, this is one notable point here. I mean, technically speaking. So Cobalt Spider, I mean, it is sorry because I used to work for a fintech for a long time. Then the Cobalt group, Cobalt Spider, they always comes into picture. When something happens. And a very funny thing is like many vendors attribute them in different manners. MITRE, has a different attribution. Microsoft has a different one. So and so EDR Windows has so and so, naming conventions. Attribution is a tricky part. I mean, see, for example, there is an incident in your organization. Your internal SOC did some homework. They did some incident response. They did some investigation. They created an incident report. Then you go and get a very famous vendor to come and do the incident response there, investigation there. They redo the entire thing with a different threat actor name and attribution. Just think about it. How confusing that could be, right? That is still, I mean, it is what it is. We cannot do much here unless I don't know. That's a very I don't have a solution for that. I mean, I think all of you guys have faced the same scenario as well, right? I mean, just imagine you are part of a SOC team. You did an entire investigation of a threat actor, incident happened in your organization. Then your management brings in a third party to do the same thing. They are doing the same thing all over again, and they are coming up with the same different attribution, different country, different threat actor. I mean, that is ridiculous. Basically, these guys are using the same set of TTPs tools and everything, but attribution is a tricky part sometimes. Then the manager is going to ask you, like, what the heck are you doing? Where are you doing in my organization? These guys are saying this is a different adversary group. You guys are saying this is a different adversary group. I mean, who am I going to believe? That's very tricky situation, but it has happened. It will happen again. So this one is they used tools like CoverStrike, cracked versions of CoverStrike to launch attacks against many organizations. I mean, so here a very familiar. I mean, if you're looking at all four these mentioned threat actors, they are using kind of the techniques. It's like mentioned in MITRE, like the starting from initial access, using so and so C2 tools to perform further activities, data exfiltration, and I mean deployment of ransomware, right? So I mean, if you start talking about all the threat actors, I mean 1 hour would not be enough, right? So now let's talk about the targets. Okay, who is going to be the first target of threat actors? Nation state sponsored threat actors or any financially motivated threat actor group. First thing is going to be enterprises, right? So when I go to again closed sessions, there will be instructions like okay, if you are talking about government, then don't say the securities, then I mean again recording. So enterprises. So I have assigned the defense level 9 for enterprises because they have money and they have the capability to build security products. They have the capability to perform incident response and get back from an attack. It looks familiar, right? Because compared to, 15 years, we used to have only one antivirus in your endpoint laptop, enterprise laptop. Now it is like you can mount at least 15 to 20 agents running in your enterprise laptop, right? That is only the case of enterprise, endpoint security products. Here we can see all kind of security products, most of the matured security organization, they have at least 2 of each. Yeah. So I was talking about enterprises with no budget constraints. So they can get at least these type of different tools for their endpoints. Let's talk about, if you're talking about endpoints, antivirus, EDR, then EPM, endpoint privilege manager would be there, DLP would be there, web proxies will be there, so different type of SIM agents will be there. If they are using some kind of data ingestion, that kind of agents will be there. If they are doing some kind of employee monitoring, then that kind of agents will be there. I don't know about this. If you know about this product, there is a certain security product which collects your usage data from the enterprise laptops, and they do some kind of prediction based on your web activity. And I'm not naming the vendor, but based on the dashboard, they could predict you're going to leave the company or not. Your intentions are going to be malicious or not. I did the testing of this product like 4 years back. So that's again not naming the vendor. Just think about it. So enterprises with no budget constraints, and so how many of you here are like red teammates? I know Trey. Then yeah. Okay. So how many of you think you can bypass at least 5 of these different security products and launch your payload into an enterprise, Fortune 500 or any company's laptop? All right. Okay, then this demo would not surprise you. This is very basic demo. We used an open free EDR. Otherwise some of these major EDR providers we work with them, so we cannot talk shit about them, right? So opponents, they don't care. They're Windows Defender or these people, they don't care. It's a fully prevention mode. And basically, what we are trying to do is we are trying to execute an agent, and we are getting a reverse connection bypassing the EDR product, Commodore, Cytium. They are free, so they don't care what we do. See, simple one. So the closed sessions, when we perform the demo, we would use the enterprise products. So if I am doing it for your enterprise, your organization, you are using a certain security product, then the demo will be based on that too, so that I could get the attention of the audience, right? So this is simple. I mean, because even though we had all these kind of different security products, I mean, so just think about it. In the early days, all you have to fear was like antivirus product. Now it's like when you compile a phishing payload, you need to think about the email security controls so that the email would land in the target inbox, right? You need to think about the endpoint security products like AV, EDR, any kind of HADS, then web proxy, so that after execution it would come back to my command and control server. Outbound security controls, right? Then once you get execution, then you need to bypass. You need to escalate your privileges. There is endpoint privilege manager. Even if you get local admin credentials, you will not be able to escalate your rights, right? Then there will be many kind of data exfiltration detection systems. So you need to do your homework, understand about your target. Then you need to plan accordingly so that you can successfully execute a red team engagement, right? But people are actually they are actually doing it. I just show you a demo as well. So that means enterprises are actually not secure because as red teams, we are still doing it, even though they had all these security products. That was my point. So again, let's talk about the second set of targets. We talked about enterprises. Here, the defense level is 8, only because they don't have money. I mean, they have money, but because of the red tape involved. I mean, enterprises, if they need a certain security product, they can just go ahead and buy. But governments, even though they have the budget, there are some red tapes are involved. They cannot buy certain product due to the n number of reasons. They need to do the all kind of internal paperwork. So that's the reason defense level has been marked as 8. And if you notice, many of the government organizations, their policy is like no outbound data. Nothing goes outside. Limit everything. That is their their primary thing when it comes into defense. So again, no budget constraints, but difficulty due to some red tape and policies, formal. I mean, you know what it is, regulations. So again, they'll be having multiple agents installed. Web proxies will be there. Limited, internet access would be there. What would a nation state threat actor would typically do? So there was a demo. So usually, what I do when I do this in India, I would look for the most famous antivirus product they are using their government institutions. Singapore, I did the same. What is the percentage? I mean, what is the top percentage antivirus product which they are using the government systems? Here, it's like 2 names. I worked with them, so I cannot, I mean, again, big names there. 2 big names. 2 big names under 2 people. The last name of two people. There is a big 2 different major antivirus vendor used in US. I mean, again, we can do that. We can bypass that. So the last one is general public defense level 2. So when we talk about enterprises and enterprise red teaming, there are like very well defined scope. We'll be targeting the enterprise environment only, right? There is a defined scope is there. But when we talk about the government organizations, so usually who are targeting government organizations? Threat actors. Nation state funded threat actors. So when they do that, they don't have a scope defined, right? If they want to target you, they will target your family as well. If your laptop is secure, if they cannot directly attack you, they'll be attacking your friend. Then they'll be gathering information about you from him or his laptop, right? So these people have doxing sheets, which is used for collecting the data about their, close circle, their colleagues, their friends, family, wife, niece. I mean, that's the story. So what I'm trying to do is like for the general public, what is let's take home usage. what is going to be their defense level? What kind of products are they using? If they are using Windows, most probably Windows Defender preloaded for free. Sometimes some vendor, I mean, if you buy a laptop, sometimes some vendor forcefully will give you something, some antivirus product. The license would expire in 1 year, then you don't even, I mean, the family won't even look at that. It will be there for some time. If it is a Linux laptop, then basically nothing will be there. Mac, I don't want to talk about Mac. I mean, people have a lot of misconceptions about Mac devices. I don't know why. I do not know why. They still believe that somehow, again recorded. Yeah, magical. Yeah, magical. So what else is there? I mean, home usage, there is nothing, right? So, I mean, if you are taking you are a potential target for state-sponsored threat actors, and he's your brother. I mean, threat actor cannot attack you. Obviously, they can get to you. You guys are using the same Wi-Fi network, right? So that is the point I'm trying to convey here. There is no, I mean, basically there is no security for the home users here. So again, so it was a nice demo, like, I kind of removed it again. Okay, so that demos like how to bypass Windows Defender with a single click and get a, deploy a ransomware in there. Okay, I don't remember how many of you remember, like, I don't know how many of you remember, like 10, 12 years back, one of the major threat actor, what they used to do, they used to get into your home users lab machines, they get your intimate pictures, and they used to blackmail you. It happened like 10, 12 years back, right? They were using, a couple of infamous rat programs to do that, right? Okay, basically cyber threat actors, I mean, enterprises, we have defined scope of engagement, rules of engagement, scope to perform the activity. Our target is very much focused, right? There's a detailed list of the things which we will do and will not be doing, right? So when it comes into adversaries and state-sponsored threat actors, there are no guardrails, right? It could land anywhere. That's the thing. So we believe that we are prepared, but until we are not. Right, that is a perfect scenario. We have the fortresses, we have everything we have, but until, I mean, we see this kind of scenario every day in our day job, right? So next question is going to be, how would you defend against such evolving and motivated adversaries? So the most obvious question comes into mind, like, procuring more security products. That's why we can see that huge queue in front of the expo area in most of the conferences. They are selling all kind of new security products, right? Thinking like an attacker might help. What do you think? How many of you are work for the offensive teams? The majority here. Okay. Oh, you guys are outnumbered, so I don't care. Okay, so this is a very, very short story time, like, offensive, because I kind of showcase this picture kind of everywhere. This is kind of a traditional martial art form coming from South India. It's called Kalaripayat. Basically, it's kind of, we believe it was created by a god and passed on to the warriors, like, when the British came and they invaded, they kind of stopped the practicing of this martial art. Different story. So when I was in school, primary school, I was not a big guy. I was a very, very lean, small guy, right? People used to pick on me. I used to get a lot of bullied. Then my mother, she got me into a karate school, a martial arts school at that time, my 4th or 5th standard, I guess, right? So when you go to a martial arts school, the very first thing they will teach you is how to take a fall without hurting you, right? They will push you, right? They will make you fall. You need to learn how to take a fall without hurting your body parts, right? So that is the very first thing they will teach you in any martial art. The next thing would be hardening your body. They will teach you different exercises so that they can harden your, sharp, your elbows, your knuckles, your knees, right? That kind of thing. Then they will teach you different attacks, single attacks, like punching, kicking someone, throwing someone, these kind of attacks. Then they will put you in touch with a sparring partner, then you can practice, right? So you just imagine you have been doing this for some time. Then when you get into a street fight, things are going to change. Street fight is going to be bloody brutal. They don't have any rules. They don't know the attacks are different. You learn from a martial arts school, right? They are going to throat punch you, or they are going to kick you in your balls. I mean, you haven't learned that in the martial arts school, right? So once you have been to a street fight, then your perception is going to change. Okay, this is how someone is going to attack me. This is going to be brutal. Then you go back again, then you learn, continue training, keeping that thing in your mind. Okay, this is going to happen. So here, we can, consider two important terms like adversary emulation as, the continuous training of the known techniques, right? When you get into street fight, you learn some unknown techniques and you can also continue training that. So by the next time you face a street fighting, you get into a street fight, you will not be falling on your back. So you get to defend yourself. You get to fight against your adversary, right? So that is the whole concept about adversary emulation and, attack simulation. So improving your organization's defensive tradecraft or offensive. So I believe you can buy security products to improve the defensive level, but at the same time, you need put your offensive teams into place so that they can continuously improve their capabilities so that they can continuously challenge the defenses in there. I'll give you a small example here. So I just mentioned the adversary emulation and simulation, right? The difference, right? All right. So here's here a very nice example. Let's say in the previous threat actor, we have seen that a couple of them are using living off the land binaries to bypass defenses and get into their targets, right? And second thing, so if you are testing your payload, you know that there are at least a lot of open source defense evasion tools are available in GitHub, and at least 60% of them are still working against major security products. You know that, right? Right? So how many of you try to collect a list of all these security open source defense evasion projects and try to execute against your defense system? So very simple. Yeah. It's a very simple thing to do, right? So for the previously shown bypasses, all I did was using some open source tooling. It's a different story. But this is a very small thing you can get started in your organization. But please make sure that you are not executing it within your production, but a test environment with the agent installed or any security process installed. Because there is another story behind. Because North Korean threat actors, they targeted such security researchers with the VS Code plugins. When you use those plugins, you actually get infected by them, and they can track all of your activity. It happened 3 years back. And second thing, I keep forgetting names. 2020 on, there was a new exploit code for 0-day for Windows remote desktop. So someone just published in Twitter on a fine day morning. Okay, this is a 0-day for Windows remote. Remote desktop, right? So many people just blindly downloaded and executed in their environment. Just basically, a kind of a prank. So when you execute it without looking at the code, it will mock you, it will show you a smiling face or something like that. So the fun thing happened in one organization. Again, I'm not naming. The head of security operations, this person got the GitHub URL and sent it across to the entire security operation team to get it validated, to test it against their tooling. Just think about the humiliation. Just think about it. And it turns out to be like a prank. Just think about it. So, when you use open source, there is another side of it. You need to be very aware, who is, who is contributing to that project, why are they contributing, even if you cannot read the code, then let your friend do that. Okay, verify it. Even though many open source security, offensive tools which you are using right now, they actually have the reflective, execution, loading within the script in many products, many tools. We don't know actually what kind of DLL or executor they are loading within that tool. That is again a gray area. There's a reason for enterprise red teaming. All the big organizations are still using the commercial products like Obastrike and so on. So, the accountability part, for the accountability part. Okay, coming back to this point, this is very simple scenario. You can get started. You can just install, any of your security product agent in a test environment. You can compare list of freely available open source, EDR bypass, defense evasion, DLP bypass tooling, and you can test it against your different systems. So understand, out of 10 tooling, how many of them were able to bypass your enterprise overpriced EDR product, right? Then you can, have a call with them and, okay, this is the testing we did. We need your help to, fine tune our policy so that next time, Ali, we will be, even though they can bypass your product, we need some way to detect them as early as possible. Very, very simple thing. You don't even have to spend a dime from your pocket. All you need is a VM and deploy your security product in there. Any agent. Simple example. Another case study I did for the couple of companies, organizations, as a freelance consultant. This is more like an internet vulnerability research team. More like I would not say threat intel, because see, the vulnerability scanner which you are using, they are good, right? You are continuously doing vulnerability management program. In some cases, many people, researchers, they actually publish vulnerabilities and exploit code in underground, GitHub, Twitter, and many places. So there is obviously a gap between this enterprise product, finding that thing and getting, creating the scanning module, and then you can scan your entire infrastructure with that scanner tool, understand how many of your your infrastructure is affected. Obviously, there's a gap. So what we used to do is we keep looking for new kind of exploits, new kind of vulnerabilities, new kind of misconfigurations. Then we test. We have an inventory of our things, right? Then okay, we just assess. Okay, how many of these machines are actually vulnerable to this attack? We can prioritize. And even though there are no confirmed remedies or patching, what we can do as a complementary security control, right? So it was a huge success. Obviously there is a gap. So it was a 3-people team, did for 3 different organizations. They were happy. They were super happy. For example, Palo Alto, they always come up with something. Most of the time, the vulnerabilities are related to exposed management console. I don't know why these people are keeping the management console open to the internet, right? So there was not even a patch or remedy available, but the compensating security control was to turn off access to management portal to the internet for let's say 300 devices. Again, okay. So threat powered adversary emulation, the game changer, because we have seen that many organizations with different level of security products, but still there is no way to validate the efficacy of these security products and how we can basically do that. Use attack simulation to test them continuously. There is a nice concept coming from MITRE Center for Threat Informed Defense. It is called Threat Informed Defense. Yes, they created a nice, framework, a threat intel power testing and evaluation, then improving the defenses. It's kind of a cycle. So you can use the framework to use that. Again, this will help you in your enterprise environment. Let's say you cannot talk to your manager and tell them that I'm going to start adversary emulation from tomorrow. Okay, on what ground? What are you going to use? What framework are you going to use? Those kind of questions will be there. You need to get approval from policy. You need to get approval from different verticals. We always say collaborate with the other team, but in many cases, it will not happen due to many levels of politics, internal politics, right? You have been to enterprise environment, you know that. Many things we theoretically, understand, it will not be practical. You need to always come up with a lot of, So the main question is going to be, we talked about enterprises. We mentioned, okay, we can do continuous attack simulation, attack emulation to test against all these security products and continuously fine-tune our defenses. So what about the end government organizations? So this approach would work private and government sector, right? Continuous attack emulation, maybe using threat informed defense, right? So let's go to enterprises. Here, a very basic thing. I'm just reiterating what MITRE mentioned there. Using Astronomer Threat Intel and using that to continuously perform security control validation and continuously, improve your defenses. If I'm going to an example, how many of you have used, Symantec antivirus? How many of you have bypassed Symantec? Again, recorded. Okay, Symantec has a module called Sonar. So many of the endpoint security managers, they don't know they have Sonar. and they have been paying for Sonar for the last 4 or 5 years. Sonar, even though the EDR boom was there, Sonar had the functionality to detect credential dumps and attack against Active Directory infrastructure. But none of these people, they actually looked into Sonar and cared to turn Sonar on, right? Just think about it. You have been paying for that function for some years now, and which you are not even using, right? So again, very, very simple example. So here, the concept is going to be, instead of going behind everything, just focus on the actionable threat intel. Like if you're in the fintech sector, what are the tactics actually targeted in the fintech sector? What are their different tooling and technique? What are, I mean, let's say their agenda is to attack internet-facing surveys and get into the organization. Then there is no point in testing the endpoints for that time frame. Focus on internet-facing surveys, emulate the attack there, and increase the defenses in that area. So, I mean, prioritize. So I was taking a workshop yesterday, and I was telling them I was teaching them how to use Cadra for performing adversary emulation, right? So I was teaching them there is no point in picking attack simulation plan for, let's say, AP29 or SandWave and executing it in your entire infrastructure. There is no point in that. There is no point in executing the attacks which happened in a internet-facing server in an endpoint laptop. There is no value coming out of that, right? You need to emulate the threat actor activities based on the targets, right? I mean, many open source product and even commercial product, they have that option to emulate certain threat actors. But I mean, commercial platform, they are more easy because they will show you the diagram, entire info. You can just pick and choose the attack only related to that area. But when you start using open source, you don't have that freedom. You will have to fine tune it. It's not like you can just download it and use it in your environment. I mean, you need to spend a lot of time to do some research and fine tune it. So here, I mean, starting for your organization, we can start with open source tools and frameworks. But the thing is, you need to be very careful. You don't know. I mean, if something is going wrong, I mean, you need to know how to de-escalate. You need to get proper approvals. In many organizations, they actually don't support the use of open source due to n number of reasons. One is security, second one is like policy, and third one is like who is going to be accountable if something happens. If I purchase a security product and something happens, they are accountable, right? I mean, again, I can suggest you to use this, but again, it's on your head to, decide what to do with that. And next thing, you can move to commercial, because commercial breach and attack simulation products, they could bring a lot of value, but you need to be in a state that these people can come in and play. So just imagine you have no goalie in there. There is no point in bringing a commercial product and testing against your defenses, right? You need to do some homework, get something in place, then bring these folks. They are the street fighters. Once they come in, then they can find a lot of issues, right? So you just need to be careful that at least you have certain number of security products or security controls in place so that there is something for these guys to test for, right? So what do you think about this? What is it which comes in your mind? Yeah, well, a very, very basic, basic infrastructure for a command and control operation for a team. So in order to get started with adversary emulation, you don't have to build that. So could anyone of you tell me, what is going to be the cost of this setup, the entire setup? I have the target here, enterprise target. A couple of domains are there, a couple of regulator surveys are there, a couple of paid command and control products are there. At least I have 5-10 different surveys, right? So this is going to cost you a lot. So in order to get started with attack emulation or adversary emulation or threat emulation or adversary simulation, you don't have to build the entire setup. You can only pick own arm of it and you can start from there. So that's on start marking green color. Right? You can just maybe, if you would like to do it manually, you can set up maybe an open source version of a command and control, maybe in your, any of your cloud provider, and you can get started in a test environment. Right? You don't even have to do it in production at least for the first 3 months, right? So what I'm trying to say is you don't have to spend a lot of money to get started with adversary emulation. It is as easy as that. So this is a kind of a very, very small example. So we did this for Folina back in 2022. Our goal was to test the fault in a maldoc against a certain endpoint security product. All I had to do was create a doc file using that exploit and test it against EDR. So instead of doing that, what I did, I created the entire attack cycle starting from sending email to data exfiltration. So by creating this is actually a dynamic adversary simulation scenario, right? So I created a maldoc, then send that across to the target. So here, this is the activity I performed. This is the validation I am going to perform. I performed to validate email security controls. So if I am able to successfully deliver that email to the victim, that means there is something wrong with their email security controls. Maybe area 1 or Office, any email security product. If they are able to execute it, that is to validate two controls, the EDR and antivirus products, any host-based security products, then effectiveness of patching and mitigation. So if they haven't patched this vulnerability yet, obviously that is going to execute there. I was able to test two security controls. So again, after execution, if they are able to download a payload, I mean, this is how actually Fortuna works. Then again, there is something wrong with their web proxies. Zscaler, Cisco Umbrella, WebCourt, Blue Court, so and so security controls. Finally, if they are able to establish a communication with my command and control server, that is to validate network security and outbound internet security systems, like firewalls, outbound firewalls, right? So instead of doing one activity, I created the entire scenario, entire cycle of an attack and tested at least 5 to 6 different security products, right? This is simple. I mean, all you had to create was, a basic AWS URL to host the command and control and host the payload delivery system, Boundrop. And I did use this one only because, see, if your organization is using AWS, totally into AWS, chances are very high that all the default AWS URLs will be whitelisted in your web proxy web proxy systems. If they are into Azure, chances are very high that Azure.net, cloudapp.azure.net, these URLs will be widely whitelisted. Basically, the traffic will be going out. So we also tested that. So just count. Instead of creating one document and test it against your endpoint system, we created an entire scenario. This scenario hasn't been used by any threat actors. This is a dynamic adversary simulation scenario. Very, very simple one, right? So I created this fancy diagram to present in front of the manager. That is again, totally different story. So continuous security control validation, like you can perform such activities again against each of your security products or as a whole. So if you purchase a commercial product, you don't have, that will make your life easier. You can pick all these target products, target machines from a diagram, just click and shoot. They will get you the result you want. They will also correlate with the SIM systems in place, and they will also show you the coverage, right? What is the coverage? What are you missing? What is the gap? Another concept from MITRE, Summit in the Pyramid. This guy mentioned I have only 5 minutes. Okay, now we talked about government and enterprises. So what about the general public? How do you secure general public? You will not be able to buy these enterprise level security products for the general public. It is not possible. It is not possible at all, right? So that is the reason many governments across the globe, they are coming up with a public-private partnership. Like many government organizational bodies, they are actually helping the citizens. It is not foolproof again, but they are doing something, sending out advisories. If something happens, then they can contact the government. So I was talking to one fine police officer from my state, again, 2018 or something. So that fellow mentioned, it touched my mind. He mentioned police, for comparing civilians, police is the only entity they can go to if something happens. Maybe a burglary, maybe someone tried to, hurt them. They are the only place they are going. They don't know anyone from government. They don't know anyone from the army. They don't know any goons. The very first line they goes to is the local police. Whichever police department you have, that is the local police. So if something happens to their personal laptop, a ransomware hit, where should they go? They should come to us. They should be able to go to a local police station and talk to the guy there. Okay, I got attacked by, I don't know what happened with my laptop. They're asking for money. Please help me. Right? So, I mean, he's a very, very nice fellow. He created something called public-private partnership in the state, a coordination between the local professionals, security professionals, and the government and the police. When something happens, pro bono, these professionals will be helping the police to do the investigation, do the research, and get the data back, that kind of activity. So, it was a good initiative. I think many governments are actually doing that, but obviously there is a gap. If I am a threat actor, I'm targeting you, I can target him. There are no guardrails in between for nation state sponsored threat actors. So what is next? I like Yoda. So conclusion is going to be adversarial exposure validation for the enterprises, because there's kind of a new term, kind of a combination of recon village and adversary village. Like, you can perform the asset, the attack surface management, then link that with threat intel, then perform attack simulation. Kind of a nice concept. So breaking defenses from an attacker's perspective, that is getting easier because it is easy. It is easy for attacker. You know, right, how we are performing it. So if it is easy for me, it is like 10 times easier for a funded threat actor group. They will be having like 100 to 200 people with the mindset of like, they have been trained from the, again. So many organizations, many breaches, they don't even know how the initial access happened. Again, one major attack happened 2 years back. One of the big provider to laptops, yeah. So something happened, they don't even know how it happened. How did the initial access happen? They did create a naming category, they did a fancy blog and everything, but they don't know how the initial access actually happened. That's a big gap, right? So here, the last point is going to be emulate, simulate, and red team, because you need to do continuous adversary emulation to fine tune them, then dynamic adversary simulation to address the extra gap, then bring in the street fighters, maybe bring in Trey, and they can come in, they can think outside the box, and they can test your defenses as a street fighter, right? Again, I kind of show this image everywhere. I like elephants, so would you expect something like that? So we know how to, what to do when an elephant strikes, because elephant is going to charge at you, right? Or we can run zigzag model, we can climb a tree, right? We can hide inside a house, we can drive away, right? So what would you do if elephant is trying to jump on top of your head like a fucking monkey? How would you react to that? Is that an expected scenario? The same thing is happening for the threat tactics as well. One small kid, compromised an entire identity IDAP service provider. You know the story, right? So, I mean, what we need to do is we need to expect the unexpected, and we need to simulate the unknown. We need to come up with more out of the box scenarios, and we need to simulate, we need to war game it, we need to simulate them in our environment, controlled environment, so that we can make sure that, I mean, if you are a teamer, you can think outside the box. So you can think, okay, I'm going to do this to your organization. Okay, just create a scenario and test it against my own company. Just identify how many of these products are working well and how many of these products are not working. That is I mean, it's theoretically, philosophically, it's okay, but again, you need to put a lot of effort. You need to get approval from your management. That is important. I mean, theoretically, I can say all this stuff, but if you are not getting proper backing from your leadership, I mean, you can leave that company and join the next one. So, okay, and keep in touch. The very first one is my blog, Tactical Adversary. That is like, adversary tactics became tactical adversary. Then you can also reach out to me in Twitter or, I mean, anywhere. And thank you guys. Thank you for your time.